we are live from Red Hook here at the Funktion House. Another edition of our Tuesday night show. We're getting close to the wrapping up of Season 4. So tonight we'd like to welcome our very special guest, Motomo315.
How are you?
What's up, my man?
How are you?
Make sure we can hear you.
Hello.
Welcome to the Funktion House. Welcome to our show. So when did you first find out about the Funktion House?
Only a couple months ago. About 4 or 5 months ago.
Okay.
Started doing research, getting back into the game,
Okay.
and connecting with people and networking.
Okay.
So started probably, I think my first full interview that I watched was Johnny Vicious.
Okay, that was a
So
good show.
Yeah, it was a good show.
It took us a little while to get Johnny to get him to believe in what we were doing here. And then he came on and he did a good job. He did a good set, good interview, very informative.
I used to buy all the labels with the little guy with the fuzzy hair.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. What's very surreal about what we do here at the Funktion House is, obviously we're around the same age, and growing up as a DJ, sort of looking up to a lot of these guys like we were talking about before, seeing these guys DJing in the clubs, and there's a lot of guys that have rolled through the doors of the Funktion House that back 10, 15 years ago, they were sort of owning nightlife in New York City. And playing in all those the venues and making some of the biggest club anthems that were around back in those days. And so it's a surreal experience to have them walk through the doors and come here to tell their story, and then play a set for us. It's almost like full circle, right?
Yeah, it was amazing that you could, all these records that you used to buy when you were younger, and you would see their names, and all of a sudden you could actually go hear them spin in the club, and it was like you were in awe.
Yeah. So, obviously you have some history, obviously as a DJ and notably as a producer, where you made a couple of records, and we'll get to those. We'll talk about those. I want to make sure that they can hear you.
Okay.
But normally, how we always do it, we like to find a little bit about the history of your DJing and how you started and your inspirations. So why don't we start off with that? You're born and raised in Long Island?
Born and raised in Long Island, all the way out east in the woods.
in the how far out?
East of Talcott, exit 62 off the expressway.
Oh, wow. You're in the sticks over there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I found this. I mean, I do, but to find the sound that I gravitated towards was difficult because it wasn't out there. And I was 13 years old, and I was friends with, wow, if they're listening, this is pretty crazy, 2 twin girlfriends of mine down the block, and I used to hang out with them.
Right.
And they were having a Sweet 16. And they invited me, even though I was 13. They're like, 13's the cutoff for our cousins, but we're going to invite you. And I went to their Sweet 16, and it was the first time I saw a real DJ with the speakers and the lights, and a DJ that was playing 2 records and mixing them together. And I must have stayed almost the whole party just watching. I'm like, oh my God, how does that happen?
Mesmerizing, right?
Literally, of course, one of the Sweet 16 girls hooked up with the DJ, and he started coming around.
You're like,
and
this is how I can get girls.
Yeah. And a week and a half later, I started working for them at 13 years old, and I was bringing the equipment in and handing out like the hula hoops and things like that in my my little bow tie and things like that. And that was it. 13 years old. I've been in the business ever since.
So you were hooked.
Hooked.
And this
right away.
business, anybody who's a DJ, I would say like 95% of the people who are from our heyday are probably still somewhat in the business some way, somehow. Like you could never get out.
I always say, it's in my blood, and it's never going to get out. I mean, to jump forward, just to comment on what you said, I remember dancing with Mel Sharon at, 9 o'clock in the morning at the tunnel with Junior. And I'm like, who's this old guy? Then I found out who he was, and he'd be dancing at, 68 years old. And he's like, it just doesn't leave.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. I think, you see it a lot now. I mean, you see it more so on Facebook. Like me growing up as a kid, my brother was 10 years older than me, and he was a DJ. So it's funny because like so I grew up in that, scene, and it's funny to see like his era of people on Facebook, and they're still like going out and getting together and doing like, and all like the DJs from like his heyday in Brooklyn, they're playing again in like these different places, and like the same people that went out 30 years ago are going to these places. So it's just like,
I don't have kids, but it's all about getting a babysitter and going out. I mean, I see the parties that go on Sunday night, like with the 718 sessions and things like that. And dancing, it's just a drug, and it's therapy. So.
We see it with, we do a show here with Barbara Tucker.
Sound Factory Bar, Little Louis Vega on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, so Barbara does a show here, and she does it twice a month, and she's got a lot of old school house music acts that perform on her show, like while people are dancing, and it's amazing to see some of these people that have come through the doors the last couple of months and perform some of these house songs, and you're like, holy shit, like that's the guy or that's the girl that sang that song.
It's Willie Ninja.
It's crazy. So you got the bug at 13 years old. You started working, doing mobile events. When did you sort of change gears and think about it from a perspective of making records and then sort of getting involved in playing with playing in like nightclubs? How did that whole come about?
Well, the first company I ever worked for, and I told them, this is the man who taught me how to mix So Many Men and Do You Want to Funk. It was Eddie Ness with Music on the Move. And we had a house venue that we would play. It was Carrington's in Stony Brook, which most people won't remember because it was out in the woods.
Right.
And we used to they had a party room in the back, do Sweet 16s. The general manager came back to me one day, and he's like, wow, you really know your classic records. Do you want to do our 30 and overnight? I was 17. So a week later, I'm 17 years old, and I'm doing the 30 and overnight.
Yeah, that's how it starts.
It was, it was crazy. That was my first club gig, and then it just rolled from there, and I got very lucky. If everyone remembers the Hamptons, Hampton Bays, I was doing Summers, Neptunes, Hampton Beach Club, CPI, Dockers, Polo Grounds, and I was still living in Suffolk, moved to Nassau County. My cousin, who was a dancer for Heart to Heart, one of the DJ companies, and said, you need to come out to a real club. So I went to Nassau. She took me to a club, came home the next day, told my parents, I'm moving out. I was 18. I moved to Nassau County, and that was it. I just started storming Nassau County.
Yeah, so Long Island had always had a very good nightlife scene.
You could go to 4 clubs on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
With all dance and club music.
Yeah, and I know that Brian Rosenberg, he used to be, Brian was actually, I think, from Brooklyn. And my brother went to high school with Brian, and Brian used to promote actually a couple of clubs in Brooklyn. But I know, he had ventured off into Long Island, and I think he had become like the general manager of like the Garden City Hotel, right? The nightlife in Garden City Hotel. That's where it started.
Yes, I worked for Brian at Posh, which was originally Blue, and then it was something else, and then
Dallinger,
Posh,
right? Wasn't it
Dallinger.
Dallinger?
Oh
yeah,
wow, yeah, you're going back. Yeah, and then I was doing Posh Saturday nights. Um, Theo, I think, really is credited to bringing DJ Theo. I think he was doing Thursday nights, and he really carved out the name of the spot, place to go, and then it became Saturday nights. And I had an opportunity to work there for a while for Brian. Brian's always been a great guy to work for.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I haven't seen Brian in many years. He probably wouldn't have recognized me if I saw him. But does he still promote or do what he still does some stuff?
Yeah,
Right?
I believe he still does like his big freestyle nights or classic style nights.
Yeah.
He is working at a place on Long Island on Thursday nights. Kind of leave that. He's doing his thing.
Yep.
On Thursday nights. Him and I have actually been in discussions. Actually, last Thursday, discussing that. I mean, I feel it's going to come back. I feel the scene is so big right now, like from the '90s, that it spilled over into Long Island and Jersey was able to benefit from the Bridge and Tunnel kids coming in,
Yep.
and they don't have the $300 to $400 to drop in a night, and we were able to benefit during that time to give them the same type music and start bringing in that scene on a Thursday night or a Friday night and even Saturday nights where maybe they could go to the city, once in a while.
Yeah.
But we started creating that vibe, and Brian was definitely a leader in supporting that, and Bobby Goodrich and Richie Petrosian, Richie Rubenstein, Keith Hart.
Yeah.
And they finally, believed in us. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we were able to do. I think it's going to come back.
Yeah, I mean, I think, there's always opportunities. I think the nightlife scene is in a certain place right now. I mean, like, look, we're an older generation, and the younger nightlife scene has nothing to do with us anymore. You know what I'm saying? I think, and that's a big problem you see, like, on social media with, like, people who are our age, and they're talking about the nightlife scene of today. And it's just like, look, we're not a part of the nightlife scene today. You know what I'm saying? Like,
It's about youth.
Exactly. Like, we don't drive the nightlife scene of today. The young generation drives that. So the young generation is growing up a certain way with technology. So nightlife of today is nightlife of today, and that's for the young generation. And I think that nightlife for people like us, I mean, I think there is an opportunity, because there are a lot of people that are our age that aren't married or they're divorced or whatever the case may be, that are still looking for places to go out. And I think because they were so entrenched in nightlife 10, 15 years ago, I really do think that there's an opportunity in certain areas. I think Long Island's a good area because you still have a lot of the same people that are living out there. Brooklyn, the demographics of, like, the people that used to go to nightlife like we did, they don't live in Brooklyn anymore.
No.
It's all hipsters now.
Exactly.
But Staten Island and Jersey, they have that marketplace, and that's why, Jersey does have a good older scene in certain locations. Like, you'll still have a lot of places that cater to people, that are in their late 30s and 40s. So I definitely do think that there is an opportunity.
Yeah, I think like over the summer, I don't get to go out that much anymore. But when I went to go see Jonathan Peters, I think it was at Pops. I was doing my research and really watching what was going on and looking at the age demographic. And, we had us old school guys, but, I saw 24-year-old girls dressed to the nines and rocking out to Jonathan Peters. And, it's when you really break it down, 22, 23, 24, we're old enough to be their dads.
Yeah.
But they were dressed and they were rocking, and some of them, were in their sweats and their sneakers and their T-shirts, and they were ready to throw down. So, and I'm watching the crowd that is following Theo, that what he's doing in a place in Farmingdale called 317, and that crowd is following, and I really think it's going to happen. You're going to start seeing regular nights on Long Island. It's going to take a while.
Yeah.
But I really do think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that nightlife, as we knew it is different. It's more ticketed, sort of like concert style events now.
Events, once a month type things. Which,
Yeah. and like it just people don't go out like we used to go out. Like you're saying, money wise, that like these kids, the younger kids today, they're not. A lot of them don't get jobs when they're 15, 16 years
I was
old.
just going
You know what I'm
to
saying?
say
Like they're
that
not
they don't.
making
Yeah,
money.
they don't work like we were working at 13 years old.
But
16, I had like 4 jobs.
yeah, but I wanted to get back to you. So in terms of production, I know that there were a couple of records that you've produced that actually were a pretty big deal at least in the New York nightlife scene. Why don't you touch on a couple of those records and how you started getting into production?
So I was working at a DJ company called EJM, and Daryl Martin, who was Kiwi Dreams, which was on Tribal Records, was one of our dancers and MCs, and he used to hear me DJ, and he's like, "You have to go hear this guy, Junior Vasquez," and I wasn't exposed to that nightlife, and he's like, don't be afraid, but he has a very big gay scene and gay following. He's like, you play a lot like him, so go see him. So I trekked in to the tunnel with my girlfriend at the time, who we were 24. She looked like she was 16. Daryl was at the door, and he was just not having it. So I actually waited 2.5 hours to get in to see Junior Vasquez. And we're standing there, and I'm listening and I'm watching. And she turned to me, and she's like, you can do this. And I said, I think I can. So after about a month, started coming up. I was a big Pearl Jam fan, and I went to my longtime friend, who's actually been a part of my production since the beginning in every single record that I do, Joe Magic, and I brought him this Pearl Jam idea of "Can't Find a Better Man," of when the breakdown comes down. So I'm going to make this to a house track, and he said, "I have no idea what you're doing. This sounds crazy," and we did it with a cassette on a Tascam, and did this record.
That's how you made that record?
Yeah, on a cassette. And did this record, and I didn't know anything to do, but I knew he did production. He was, a DJ, and pressed the white label, and brought it to the tunnel. And Daryl's like, what is this record that you're holding? I'm like, I'm giving it to Junior. Okay, go in. Gave it to Junior. He played it that night, and I went up to thank him, and as Junior did back in the day, he said, don't give this to anyone for 6 months. So I'm 24 years old. He played this record. I see 2,000 to 3,000 people going crazy. And I'm like, oh, my God, I made a record. And then he said, can you do it again? Can you make another record? So I did Monkey Dreams, which, again, Joe Magic, I went to him with all these weird ideas. I had 9 Inch Nails samples. I had all this. I had monks of Santo Domingo from chanting. He's like, what is this? How are you doing this? So I did it again, gave it to Junior, and don't give this to anybody. I kind of slipped out to Jonathan Peters at Mirage when he was doing that, and he signed me as his first artist at Pagoda Records. And next thing you know, I'm Jane Britton, who was his manager. I'm going to London with him. And, I did those first 2 records myself, and I was like, oh, my God, am I 25 years old? Did I just make it in the music industry? And that's how I had no idea what I was doing. I had things in my head. Joe could get it out of me, and, that's
so what
that's how it happened.
that was a big deal. I mean, Junior Vasquez back in those days, he sort of ruled the DJ world, in New York. I mean, he was huge all over the place. New York City, he owned New York City. Yeah,
but it was a fine line. Like, you couldn't tell him I just came from Danny Teneglia down the block and I'm coming to see you.
Oh, yeah. No, it was very...
I mean, Danny, obviously the DJ's DJ, and you had to,
Yeah.
I'm leaving. Where are you going?
Yeah. But, I mean, I think he was probably the highest paid DJ at that time.
Yeah, and just the whole drama and the marathons that he created, I did. I fell in love with the whole thing.
Yeah. So that's how the whole production thing started for you. And I mean, so what was it like producing after that? I mean, how long did you do? Were you making records for?
Well, after that, my younger, who became my partner, Jason Ojeda, we were friends because he was like the top DJ at one DJ company on Long Island, and I was the other, and we met together. And I've always been more progressive and underground, and he was more, you know, soulful, like South Soul and classics and things. And he taught me, you know, he taught me all those. And what was it? Was it BLS, the afternoon midday mix? We used to listen to that. Calls me up one day. He's like, you know, what are you doing with, you know, all this mixing, and you're going to the city? And I said, listen, you know, come, let's make records. And you know, we started making records together, and the mesh of my more progressive underground sound and his soulful sound, it worked out great. And you know, I don't remember the first remix we got, but you know, it led into Anaya Day and China Row, Moving Up, and Kim English, Missing You. And you know, I always feel like I got lucky, or we got lucky, and did some pretty good music, and we started making music, and it just went from there.
And you guys were getting gigs from that?
Yeah. He was more in a position from his name had more recognition in the club scene. You know, well, obviously CPI is what really launched him out in the Hamptons.
Yep.
He was in the right spot at the right time, and the wave just came, and he was right there, and he was able to have that stage to play our productions.
Yeah.
And it gave us a great jump off into, you know, getting more projects and making more records.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I remember that. I mean, I remember when you guys were like a remixing team.
Mind Trap. We went into Mind Trap.
Mind Trap. Yeah, I remember that. And I remember when Jason, you know, he was playing a lot of gigs that a lot of the promoters that I used to work underneath, like the Frank Mancusos and the Chris Readers and those guys.
Yeah.
You know, they were doing a lot of parties, and they were using, you know, Jason. They would use Jason. They would use Hex Hector. They would use like
Just
all
in
those
time,
guys,
and then
Just in
Razor and
Time.
Guido came into the whole mix.
Yeah. And for a while there, like, you know, there was like that whole mix of like Razor and Guido sort of owning the remixing world, and they did a lot of stuff for Junior.
You mean the
right?
Razor and Guido night at Twilo, or which? Listen, it was great. They played you know, they made a lot of music that Junior supported.
Yep.
And it was great. And you know, I'm very proud that I was, you know, friends with them and with them in the trenches, you know, since the beginning.
Yeah, it was. There
be
was
a part of it.
There was a whole Long Island circuit. I mean, you guys.
And then we met up with like Plasmic Honey and, you know, Sal and Richie Santana and, you know, Danny Chetos. And
yeah,
it was in the 90s, like it was almost, you couldn't go to a club. You could go to 4 different clubs on one single night, and all our records were being played.
yeah. It's funny though, because I find with like the music from that era, you know, there was a lot of big records that came out of that era, but I feel like they were only relevant in New York.
Yeah, we were kind of living in a bubble, like,
You know,
oh,
like it's weird. Like it's like, you know, because like it's funny. Like somebody posted a record. It was like a Deborah Cox record. I don't know which record. Somebody posted a record, and there was like a notable DJ that didn't even know of that song. I think it was like.
Things just ain't the same.
No.
or something like that?
It's over now, right?
Oh.
You've been messing me
Right.
and telling me lies, right? And there was I'm not going to name any names, but there was a you know, pretty relevant New York DJ that I would not say was in that circuit of that music that had no idea about that record.
Yeah, and then what's the other guys that actually did a remix of that, Joe? They just looped it and played more of like a disco house. I forget their names right now. But they just sampled that and it became huge again. Yeah,
Yeah.
How could you not know that?
No, but you know, so it's interesting, you know, to see how like there was a very big though cult following of that music behind
Yeah.
some of the DJs that played it. You know what I'm saying? Like the Jonathan Peters and the Johnny Vicious, like, you know.
Well, yeah, I remember DJ Escape also. He got in the scene, and he was traveling a lot, and he was bringing that sound, you know, all over the United States, and I think he was key in expanding that. Again, it's kind of like a family, like you said. It's a cult of but then like Barry Harris and stuff out in they were from California.
Thunderpuss.
Thunderpuss, yeah. I mean, they were making, huge
they were
anthems.
huge, yes. I mean, I think
Whitney Houston. I don't know how many times.
what put them on the map was I want to say it's not right, but it's okay.
I don't
Was
know how
there-
many times.
That was their record that put them on the map. Like when that song came out, it was just like who made
It was
that? And then Thunderpuss,
insane.
and then it was just like record after record was Thunderpuss.
Yeah.
You know, that was Barry Harris, and what was the other guy's name? There was two of them, right?
Oh man,
I don't
embarrassed. I
even
should
remember
know it.
Barry Harris. But I remember that. I remember those records. Yeah.
Yeah, they played all the time. You had to play that.
Yeah.
You had to have 2 copies.
2 copies. Yeah. I remember getting that record as like a promo. Like I was on the mailing list.
Was it
Arista.
It was Arista, yeah.
I was on
Oscarelli.
Yes.
Oscarelli gave me a lot of records
I got
on White
that-
Label.
I got that record, and well, it was Hosh, and then Danny Caniglio, Danny C, worked underneath
Danny
Hosh.
C, yes.
And that's how I got on the list, and I got that record, and I'm like, what is this? And then that was it. It was like holy shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Better Man.
That's what, yeah, that long. I mean, literally the next week after he played it, I was in Next Magazine. You know, and then I don't know how much, but I know Danny got on it, and then overseas it started to pick up. And then who was the guy on K-Rock who did the Midnight Show?
I'm not sure.
He was more in the rave scene, and all of a sudden he played it. And then Howard Stern actually made a comment when Howard Stern was like, he's like, yeah, there was some weird thing about, you know, Pearl Jam, you know, blah, blah. And, you know, I'm here. And then Glenn Frischer, first DJ to play it on, was it Hot 90?
Hot 97, yeah. Saturday
Was it
Night
Hot 97?
Yeah.
When he was playing, he used to do live from the Huntington Hill Long Island Exchange. And Glenn started playing it. And I was telling you before, I actually have the cassette where I have the show taped that he played it. So he supported it. And yeah, that's, you know.
I remember, so when I was, you know, when I had started DJing, you know, when you first started DJing, you had a DJ partner. And my DJ partner was Scotty Harati. And I remember he got that record. He bought it. He like went record shop and he got that record, and I'm like, oh, I can't believe you got that record, you know.
It was weird because the pushback on all the Long Island guys, that they were still in this Long Island mentality that the intro's too long, and what do you do when it breaks down? You just sit there, like, what do you do?
Yeah.
I'm like, you got to go to the city. You got to experience 3,000 people with a light show and the whole drama of it all to appreciate records like that. And, you know, all those records that we made had huge, dramatic, you know, breakdowns.
I mean, you know, you could probably still play that record today.
I think you can because of that beat that I came up with.
It did have a very good. I would say like
It's kind of like it was like almost like tech. Yeah, and you know what's funny because when I was speaking to Victor Calderon when I first met him at 8-Ball Records, I was signing a record with Kevin Williams there, and I was telling you this before. I was in his office and Kevin, you know, looked over my shoulder. Hey, Victor, and I'm like, oh my God, is that Victor Calderon? I'm like, give it up, Victor Calderon. He's like, yeah, and I got up and I went over and introduced myself. I said, hey, I'm Motomo. He's like, Monkey Dreams, Motomo? What's my favorite record? I said, oh, this is my favorite record. And that's how I met Vic. But it's always stayed in my head that he made a comment about Monkey Dreams. He said, it's timeless. And it's ironic that that's the one record that every time Junior does a reunion club, he's always playing that record. And you know, I mean, of course I feel good about it. And it's I'm glad it's still being played. And I get a lot of hits that people, oh my God, can you send it to me? Can you send it to me? So it's time to make new records though.
Yeah.
I can't live off the old ones for.
No, you know, like a lot of records, you know, like everything goes 360, you know, so like disco's been back for a while now, and like a lot of people are hot and heavy on disco. You got a lot of DJs that are playing disco, you know, and there's the jacking house is like really big now.
Yeah, I like that. I like it.
You know, and I just think, you know, I just think that, you know, it's things are recycling more and more now because like everything's getting tired, so they got to come up with something new, and like so like that's what it is. But I think maybe you should go back into the studio and make a remix of Better Man again. You know,
I've always thought about it.
do like a reboot of that record. You never know.
Yeah, I always
You know?
thought about it. Kind of know how to attack. Actually, someone did. Someone did make a remix of it. I heard, and yeah, I mean, not you always give someone a new try. You always want to hear something a new generation.
Well,
But
what's amazing though is like look back in the days when you say did that remix to time stretch or to take a song that maybe would not go. That's why you had to do like the breakdown, right? Or I mean,
yeah, it was
because like today with the technology, they could take the fucking record and they could time stretch it and put it over a kick, and it would sound as if the guy was singing it.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm gonna play something tonight that Joe Magic and I put together. I wanted to put together a little treat. We didn't have that much time, and what we did is, we time stretched this down, we matched it this, boom, and it was like 8 minutes, it was done.
It's crazy, right? Whereas years ago, like I remember Charlie Casanova.
Charlie.
He did a
Palladium.
remix. Yeah, he did a remix of "Killing Me Softly," and he actually took the record and like he like time stretched the record. He didn't have the acapella. He like time stretched the record. He dropped out all like the bass and the mids, and and you can actually, if you listen to his remix, you can hear like the clap
In the background.
You can hear the clap in the background of the original song. It's it's just like that's how you did it in those days.
Well, I mean, you look at like Morales and Knuckles, and those guys cutting tape. That's I can't imagine doing that.
Yep.
But
Yep.
they did it.
So, so you're making your way back into wanting
Joe
to
and
play again.
Joe and I we're gonna get back to it.
Yeah.
I just changed a little things up in my life. I'm gonna have more time, and Joe and I make great music, and he approached me like 2 months ago. He's like, "Listen, let's just do this.
Why
We
not?
had some hits. Let's get back in there and start doing things."
Yep, it's you with the way the world works today. You can make something and it could be on the map instantly. So I think it's a good move to do that. So what do you got planned for us tonight here at the Function House with your set?
The way I do my mix shows, I've always done this over the years. Is I like to show diversity to give listeners down not just one genre, and I always thought like more on the house tip, and I progress. So I'll go from church choir type stuff to landing at 130 boom boom shoo womp womp.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy all of it.
Yeah.
And I enjoy playing all of it. So I start very housey, and then Jack and House, and then Tech House, and then I move into more of the what Calderon does now, or Nicole Mortimer, what she does now, stuff like that.
All right, great. Well, listen, Jerry, thank you for coming on the show.
She said my real name.
Yes.
Not many people know that. Which is good because I haven't gone by Motomo in years.
So we're going to take a 1-minute break. We're going to get Motomo315 up on the decks, and he's going to play a set for us here at the Function House. So we'll be right back.
Thanks.
Peace. All right, we got Motomo315 live from Red Hook here at the Function House.
Everybody, let's dance. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Yeah. You gotta believe, yeah. I'm a believer. I believe that I can live freely. So I gotta take a stand. If you're a believer and believe that you can live freely. Everybody, let's dance. Stand up. Hey. Stand up. Come on and stand up. Hey. Stand up. Come on and stand up. Stand up. Come on and stand up. Hey. Stand up. Stand up. If you believe in the fire that's in your soul, come on and stand up. You gotta believe in the fire that's in your soul, so come on and stand up. If you believe in the fire, stand up. You gotta believe in the fire. Come on and stand up. Everybody, let's dance. Stand up. Everybody, let's dance. Come on. Come on. Stand up. Come on. Come on. Stand up. Hey, come on. Come on. Stand up. Hey, come on. Come on.
All right. How was that for your set at Function House?
I'm very animated. I get into what I play.
Yeah, no, the feed was jumping. They were
That's
into the music that you were playing.
That's good. I don't see the numbers while I'm playing, but that's my phone is buzzing.
That's good.
It's probably my mom.
So, want to thank you for coming down to the Function House.
This is an opportunity for someone who hasn't played, like I said, 15, 18 years, to get out in front of the public. It's to show, I got the gray hair, but
At least you got
still
hair.
Got it.
I don't have any hair.
I still got it, and I hope at least the opportunity for me to get out there and make people dance. I mean, that's what it's all about, to give people a couple hours of forgetting about their bills and their problems, just make them dance.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I think what it is too is how you put together the music selection. You know what I'm saying? So like a lot of times, we've had a lot of people on the show, and I mean obviously music is very accessible, and it's how you put it together, and I think you did a really good job putting the set together tonight. I think the music selection was good. You know what I'm saying? So I think it kept people engaged that were listening. So you did a good job of that.
Us old school guys, we like 8 hours. So
yeah, no,
so
I mean
to get it in under an hour and a half. We did a time check, and I skipped Monkey Dreams and I skipped a couple things, but because it's not about my old records, it's about what's going on now, and I'd rather play the new stuff. So
yeah, I mean that's what it is. So listen, Jerry, thank you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Thank you.
Motomo315 came down to the Function House. You can catch the replay on thefunctionhouse.com. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Peace.